Hello, welcome to the Record Celtic podcast. My name is Daniel Caw. I'm delighted to be joined. It's an all-star occasion today because I'm joined by Record Sports' Michael Gannon. Mick, how are you?
Afternoon, chaps. Happy New Year to everyone.
Happy New Year to you as well. We're also joined by Ryan McDonald. Ryan, how are you?
Not bad, mate. Happy New Year.
You too. And Record Sports' Graeme Young. Graeme?
Hello, how are you?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, pal.
Happy New Year to everyone listening as well. But one guy that it wasn't a Happy New Year for is, of course, Wilfred Nancy. We're talking in the aftermath of Rangers 3-1 win at Celtic Park. I should maybe start with yourself, Ryan. You were there for Record Sport. You were there after the game. You'd written in our blog today that you'd never seen anything like it, the reaction afterwards.
Yeah, we were just talking about it before we started, didn't we? I wasn't there when the Sharks were out after Ross County during the COVID season. I think Mick was there. But yeah, from my perspective, I've definitely never seen anything kind of like that. After the game, fans, I kind of estimate between probably about 1,500 fans gathered immediately after the final whistle, straight outside the parkhead doors, and they were absolutely livid. Seething. It was really kind of poisonous atmosphere, and yeah, I think this is just the kind of start of it really ramping up now. It was, they were calling for Dermot Desmond, Michael Nicholson, Chris Mackay, Paul Tisdale, Wilfred Nancy. I was right in the eye of the storm as well, and I think the police handled it quite well because it did get a wee bit fiery between the police and fans, unfortunately, at one stage, but the police kind of handled it quite well and managed to kind of cool the tensions a wee bit. But yeah, it was really, as I say, I've never experienced that kind of anything like that at Celtic Park before. And the fans have, I think they stuck around just to about 5 o'clock. And the team came out as well. The police installed metal barriers to allow the team to leave the stadium eventually, and that was around about probably just before 5 o'clock. And yeah, the fans that stuck around, I gave them absolute dogs abuse. You'll be able to see it on Record Sports channels and on the website. And the footage is quite something. Callum McGregor, James Forrest, Kieran Tierney, Jota, who hasn't played in almost a year. They were all in the firing line. And yeah, it's fair to say a lot of fans made their voices heard and got a lot off their chest, but there was no sign of Wilfred Nancy. I'm assuming he's probably went out the kind of the side door, or has decided to remain in the building for a while until things kind of calm down. But yeah, it was extraordinary scenes really. And as I say, I think this is, I know obviously the protests have been going on for quite a while since the start of the season, since the Champions League exit. But I think things are going to really ramp up now. There's been sack the board chants across maybe kind of small sections of the stadium, but today at the game, I did hear that it was a kind of a large percentage of fans that were kind of joining in this time, and I did see fans in the main stand turning around and really directing their anger towards the director's box, which isn't nice to see. Obviously, you worried that things would get out of hand and somebody would end up doing something stupid. Fortunately, that never happened. But yeah, fans are absolutely, they're apoplectic at that result today. That it was a calamity. And I think that was the day that Celtic truly kind of their season's is in ruins now. I think they've completely bowed out this title race, and I think now the rebuild starts. It has to start because there's a long journey ahead now.
Graeme, I want to get your take on Wilfred Nancy in just a wee minute, but obviously, Mick, I know you were at the game too. On the actual game itself, it started so well. Celtic, I thought, were by far the better team in the first half. An absolute screamer from Yang. Nancy on the touchline looking delighted. I mean, what happened in the second half?
I think it was another kind of example of it's been pretty symptomatic of the entire Nancy short reign. I thought Celtic were bright the first half, looked good in attack, scored a great goal, and missed some really big chances again. The lack of a cutting edge in the final third really damaging them again. So that by failing to take the chances, that there's a good chance to get punished. They get punished early in the second half, and then they crumble. Once again, a team has changed things tactically in the second half, so they haven't reacted. And by the end, they look ramshackle, disorganised, just a beaten team, just a bit shambolic. So a game, and I'm not got the final stats in front of me, but it was maybe 20 plus shots. So they had on goal, 7 or 8 on target, and then lose the game 3-1, and it could have been worse. I think it's summed up the kind of the way it's been under Nancy so far. I think it. Listen, I asked him after the game, do you feel that this is the end of the road for you? And he said, I don't think about that kind of thing. No, I'm concentrating. What the worrying thing, I think, for him and for fans is that he's saying he thought he saw good things and they're getting closer. And you're thinking, you just lost 3-1 at home to a pretty ordinary Rangers team who were on the rack in the first half, there for the taking. And not only they lost, they kind of capitulated in the second half and fell apart. I mean, the goals they conceded. I mean, that's now 18 goals in 6 games under Nancy. Ridiculous numbers for Celtic. I mean, in the past, I think they conceded 2 domestically in 7 games under Martin O'Neill, both on penalty kicks. Under Brendan Rodgers, no one could have said that they were defensively dodgy. If anything, they couldn't score goals. That was a problem. I think the 6 goalless draws, they were solid defensively. So going from being a pretty solid defensive unit to being a complete shambles. And I think, listen, a lot of sympathy for the manager. I think the squad is poor, it's lacking, there's injuries, etc. I know the reasons. However, the manager's job is to get the best out of what he's got. Is the manager get the best out of what he's got? No, because demonstratively he's making them worse. They've got the record in these games is worse. So he's actually having a negative impact on this squad with the players that isn't very good in the first place. So by the end, it really was pretty shambolic with Celtic. I mean, the goals, I don't know if you want to get through the goals, Graeme, as well, but I mean, the first 2, Rangers throw in for the first one, shapes all over the place. Second goal is a Celtic throw in, shapes all over the place, individuals making mistakes. And the third goal, again, a shambles, players don't know where they might be in the park, all over the place. I mean, I say sympathy with the manager that it's not all structural, this, because individual errors are playing a part in it as well. Schmeichel at the third didn't look too clever. Ralph at the second, Trusty at the second, sorry, as well. However, this all comes from the fact that the players have no doubt been spooked by these changes and have lost their confidence in the shape and the formation and the style. And it means that when things are going in adversity, they panic and they can't just rely on their kind of normal attributes. They're overthinking where they should be, where they're not meant to be, and they're doing neither. They're not doing what the manager wants them to do, but they're not doing what they used to do either. And they're caught between the two, and it's looking like a dog's dinner, and it's just not working.
Graeme, does Nancy survive this? It's now 6 defeats in these opening 8 games. How do you see it?
I don't think he should now. I don't think he probably will either. I think that felt quite final. Probably tonight with the protests as well. There's probably an element of kind of cooler heads, maybe think it over, but it's just not working. And we joke, but obviously watching the hipster side, watching all YouTube, it's actually dawned on me that what worked at Columbus Crew will never work at Celtic. You saw it in the first half where it's so high risk, isn't it? Like these, but it's not Ange ball, it's not pushing teams back, it's breaking lines, and it's quite direct at times, but it's also pretty beneficial to the opposition. And that's why when you look at maybe that last season at Columbus Crew, won 14, lost 12, drawn 8, that's what this kind of football gets you unless you've got superior personnel, which Celtic don't have. And there's probably a lack of charisma as well. I just feel that's been the missing element as well. And I know he was able to stick up for himself yesterday and fight his corner, but it was just a variation of the things that have been said before at this point. And it just feels that message. Austin Trusty before the game, without saying it out loud, I think intimated that it's been a real struggle. Just everything. He's probably the one player more than anyone. He's this one-man defence, isn't he, at most of the time? And it's just not working. It's not a fit between manager and club. And I think we all know that the issues run much deeper than just the man in the dugout. But it's got to come to a head soon. I think it will come to a head soon. And it's just a style of football that just seems incompatible with what Celtic want to do. It's not a dominant. I know there was this talk about keeping the ball and dominating teams. You don't see much of that, do you? Really, it's still it's up and down. It's basketball, football, isn't it? That's what it is. And or as Chris Sutton put it, it's fantasy football, which I thought was with the personnel right now. That's what it is. But I don't see how he lasts this, because we all know Scottish football. We all know football in general, in the sense we're at that point where it's one bad performance, never mind result, and we're past that now. There's nothing. It's like Clement post Queen's Park in the Cup. There's no saving. It's just the next result, isn't it? So if Celtic aren't ready to act, they probably have to now because it's coming ahead.
Do you see?
Sorry, Daniel, but like
No,
in isolation, there's no Celtic or Rangers manager that survives losing 6 games out of 8, especially when one of them's in Europe. I mean, I'd like to go back through the history of when sackings occur. I don't think there's an old firm manager who has survived in isolation 6 defeats out of 8 games.
That's a good
one
point.
of them in Europe. So the fact that it's front loaded, it's his first 8 games, I think that's what's kept him in a position. If this had happened after 6 months, if Brendan Rodgers lost 6 games out of 8, now I'd still win the job, he'd be sacked.
Aye, you're probably right.
Neil Lennon didn't lose 6 out of 8 and was sacked in 2021. So, I mean, you have to go back to Tony Mowbray didn't lose 6 out of 8 and was sacked in 2009, was it? So, I mean, come on. I don't think lost 6 out of 8 to get sacked at Rangers. Russell Martin had obviously got draws, didn't lost 6 out of 8. So, any old firm manager losing 6 games out of 8 in isolation has got the bags packed and put under the arm in the car park. Because it's been front loaded, he survived to now. But you kind of feel you're loath to kind of talk about sacking a manager after only 8 games. But this is what I'm saying. If you could take those 8 games in isolation and put them somewhere else, if he'd won the treble last year and lost 6 out of 8, he'd be sacked. Brendan Rodgers would be sacked for losing 6 out of 8 games.
I think it's probably right.
Brendan Rodgers lost 2 games in 3 out of 3, and people were saying after Hearts he's going to get sacked, and people still suggest that he's going to get sacked the day before he quit, and that's why he quit because he lost 2 out of 3. I mean, it's like Celtic lost 2 games in the entirety of 2024. They lost 17 in 2025 and they've just lost the first one in 2026. It's incredible. So, this is why we're talking about a man. It sounds a bit grubby and a bit kind of, a bit knee-jerky talking about a manager getting sacked after 8 games. And by the way, you know what it's like around the world. You hear these managers getting, like, happened to Ange Postecoglou at Notts Forest. You go, it's ridiculous. It needs time. And yeah, it does need time. But there has to be signs as well. And the signs are, there's no signs. Alarm bells going off. Red flags.
Aye. And I mean, Ryan, do you see it that way? And Dundee United is the next game for Celtic a week today. We're recording on the 3rd. Do you think Wilfred Nancy will get that game?
I do. I'm kind of probably going against the grain here, but history tells you the Celtic board are always very reluctant to act quickly. You look at Neil Lennon's 10 in a row tenure. The fans were calling for Lennon's head, and I think it was about December time. Then it rolled into January, and I think he finally left around about February. But the season was done and dusted by then, and 10 in a row had well and truly gone. And there was no trophies left to play for. So I just don't think, and I think with Tony Mowbray as well, the Celtic board were late to act in that as well. So I think given the fact that this is, I think in the statement when Wilfred Nancy was confirmed as Celtic boss, I think it was Michael Nicholson who said that Nancy was their number one choice. So, this is, and I think obviously he's got close connections with, or he's got previous working connections with Paul Tisdale. So, are the Celtic board willing to hold their hands up yet again this season and admit they got it wrong? For me, I don't think so. I think they've done a lot of planning into this January window, which, by the way, I can see going exactly the way it went under Tony Mowbray. You're going to get a raft of loan signings in, just stopgap signings to do, because as Peter Lawwell has said in the past, this is notoriously a difficult window to sign players, and it is. But, if Celtic had done their job right in the summer, they wouldn't be in this mess. So they need to, the 2 strikers is an absolute minimum, bare minimum. And, Wilfred Nancy, I'm sure he's probably identified players from the MLS. Are the Celtic board going to fork out millions of pounds, probably pay over the odds, given the amount of money, £77 million that they've got in the bank? Are they going to pay over the odds to back Wilfred Nancy? I wouldn't be surprised if there is people in that boardroom who have already lost faith, but ultimately the final decision will come will lie in Dermot Desmond's doorstep. So for me, I just can't see him getting the bullet quite yet. I think this will kind of roll on, the protests will roll on, and then they'll come, all just finally explode maybe around February, March time, when Celtic season is over, maybe out the Scottish Cup, maybe another dreadful result. I think that's when it will happen. But as I say, in terms of January, I think it's just going to be stopgap signings. I don't think the manager's going to be properly backed. I think it'll be loan players that will probably come in. And then I think Celtic's season is just going to I think it's already in tatters anyway. It's crashed and burned.
I mean, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see the league table up on the screen now. I thought it was interesting, Ryan, you said a few minutes ago that you think Celtic have bowed out of the title race. I think that's the way you said it. I mean, they're 6 points behind Hearts now. They're now tied with Rangers, and I should say a Rangers team that has been debated as arguably one of the worst Rangers teams of all time. I mean, Mick, Graeme, how do you see the title race now?
I think their current guys, Celtic, are in big trouble. We know that, don't we? Like, that's the truth. Like, you can see that every game follows a similar pattern. Like, made the point there about signings and loan signings, but it's great. I know this crux where it's like buy players, and I just think structurally, the one thing that Nancy's railing against, it's not structural. It is structural. There's problems. I think that Austin Trusty one for the second goal, Trinity second goal, would show that. It's like pick your poison. You go and close the player or stay back, but that should never be such a gap. It just looks so abnormal when he was racing in and goal when they were caught out. I think it is structural. They're really weak from corners. Cal McGregor doesn't touch the ball enough. And I know there's been criticism in the past that everything goes through him, but the game kind of passes him by with these long. I think that's the issue, and that's why in the current format, irrespective of who's signed, I think Celtic are in a world of trouble. I really do. I just don't think under this manager, it just doesn't look feasible. I just don't see how it'd be possible unless there is changes everywhere.
The most baffling thing for me as well, and I agree with what you said there, Graeme. The most baffling thing for me as well is, Paul Tisdale. I think he's led this along with Dermot Desmond and the board, but they've appointed this man knowing that he was going to implement that 3-4-3 formation, his new system, and they know the personnel that Celtic had available, yet they still went ahead with this appointment. It just doesn't make sense. It's another just catastrophic mistake, one of countless this season. And who's going to take accountability? Who's going to shoulder the blame? We're going to get a statement from Celtic. We might get it at the middle of the night, as they tend to do, because I don't think there's much transparency inside the Parkhead corridors. But it's just, it's just a complete mess.
But I think, like you say, but you talk about the title race, but I mean, they're 6 points behind Hearts and level with Rangers with 19 games to go, is it? So I mean, it's 18 games to go. So you're thinking, well, it's all there if they act quickly, have a good window. It should be there, but in the current form, it's relegation form. Never mind title winning form. I mean, 2 wins in 8 games is not anywhere near title winning form, and they are trending in the wrong direction. Can't keep a clean sheet. They're disorganised. I agree with Graeme saying. I think talking about Cal McGregor, this structure is killing them but I think he's not quite doing what his manager wants him to do because he doesn't believe in what he's been asked to do. I mean, you actually see it sometimes. He's been told to go further up and push up the pitch, but you can almost see him going, if I go any further, I'm killing the guy behind me. Because Trusty's behind him on his own. Trusty is running about like honestly, like the missus on Christmas Day with Christmas dinner, completely panicking, clashing pans and all that, smoke going off everywhere. He's running about absolutely like possessed. And today, I thought he was poor today, but that's been coming for weeks because he has been minding the shop on his own for weeks. My last Garth tackles running about with his hair on fire, like I say, blowing pots and pans and smoke blowing out the kitchen window. And at some point, it's just caught with him. He didn't know where to engage that second goal. He's backed off rather than engaging. You see him even with the third goal. He doesn't really know where he's meant to be. Yang's miles up the park. He's meant to play left back at that point. And you think, well, the guy who had an absolute outstanding first half playing as a right winger, stroke wing back, is now playing left back and getting exposed at left back.
I couldn't understand that.
It's utter chaos. So I mean, it's just that isn't working. But it's put doubts in the mind of guys who do know what they're doing usually. So it's all over the place right now. Whether or not, I think Ryan's right. Whether or not they act, I don't think Celtic will take any. Not only is it talking about money in the bank and what it costs in January, but Celtic spent £2.5 million to get Wilfred Nancy out of the screw. Exactly. He's got a 2.5 year contract, so it could cost the same again. Probably going to cost the same again to get him out of the contract. So you're talking £5 million in the drain in 4 weeks.
Oh wow!
And this is on top of the £5 million set fire to for Balak Wishaw, the £5 million for Tanecki, which might turn out all right, but at the moment it's not looking a bit that great. And you're thinking they're throwing good money after bad here, Celtic. and now they've got a transfer window to try and fix things. And the people who are responsible for the previous windows and the manager are going to be in charge of fixing it. So the shoddy guy that left the hole in the roof is going to have to fix the roof again.
We've only got a few.
Any wonder people aren't convinced that it's going to happen.
We've only got a few minutes left, guys. But you can see in your screen now, if you're watching, Celtic's next 6 fixtures. We were talking before we come on air, Mick, that it doesn't get any easier for them, does it? I mean, that Auckland Talbot game.
Every game looks a bit risky now. Honestly, it's Auckland Talbot away. I mean, I actually think it's if it was at their own ground rather than come up, we're thinking goodness knows what could happen. Every game's fraught right now for Celtic. Listen, they've only 2 wins, one against a 10-man done Aberdeen team and one against the worst team in the league. So, I mean, that's all they've managed to do in 8 games. The rest, any half-decent team they've got against has wiped the floor with them at some point.
For me, the key was momentum. Even if Celtic had won today, I wouldn't back them to win any game after that. I just don't think they've got the consistency in the squad. I don't think they've got the balance, the stability. I just don't feel this system they're playing in is sustainable. I think it's clear as day that the players are just struggling to adapt to it. Some just look lost in it, completely lost. And as I say, you look at those run of fixtures. I mean, I was just looking at the league table there as well. You look at it, Hearts and Rangers combined. Celtic have lost more than Hearts and Rangers combined this season. They've lost more than Hearts and Motherwell combined this season in the league. I mean, it's truly woeful form, absolutely woeful. And you're looking at that table just now. Celtic second. Motherwell must fancy their chance of climbing up that table to second or third. They really must. Hibs aren't that far behind. I know obviously Motherwell and Hibs have both played a game extra, but Celtic are an absolute free fall now, and I just don't know how they arrest this slump in form. I just don't. And Dundee United have already got a result against Celtic. I think any team, even Auckland like Talbot, by the way, they'll be in the group chat just now, messaging each other saying, by the way, we've got a chance. We'll fancy our chances. And I think Mick's right to point out, just as well it wasn't at Beachwood Park, because if it was, then they really would fancy their chances. So
the last time Celtic lost 6 league games in a season and won the league was 1998. So it's not happened for 27 years, 28 years, come up for the 28 years. That was the Wim Janssen season. They lost 6 that season. So it doesn't happen very often. If you lose 6 games season, don't win the league. So Celtic now realistically have to go and win, or not lose another game this season.
Not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
Graeme, I'll maybe give you the final word as we sit here right now, and I'm asking you how long a piece of string is, but are Celtic favourites to win the Premiership in your eyes?
No, I wouldn't say so now. I don't think you make that case just because of where they need to come from. So if you make these mistakes, it probably feels the most likely scenario that in a season of gaffes on and off the pitch, the team that's won the league 13 out of the past 14 seasons then ends up finishing third. Something about that feels quite fitting for everything that's happened in this season, that you go for dominators to kind of dropping down the league. And listen, as boys pointed out, with Motherwell and Hibs, they're coming up the way. I just don't think you can make the case, because with the manager in place, it's quite clearly not working. Then if you make the change, you probably identified a certain style of players. It just seems like everything that possibly could have gone wrong since the appointment. We know there was a lot of issues before. Hearts, Chesnikov, by all accounts, they're very excited about him. They've got this right back that sounds like Roy the Rovers that shoots on sight. So they know what they're doing. They know what they're signing. Rangers, pretty pragmatic, and then came alive in the second half. They know what they're doing as well under Roll. Celtic don't appear to be able to do that right now, and I don't think you can make them favourites, irrespective of what's gone by in years past. I just don't think they've got the squad, the imbalance in the squad, no strikers. There's a lot to be concerned about.
I think that sums it up quite well.
Happy New Year.
That brings us to an end for this week's Record Celtic podcast. Thank you very much for listening. As Graeme says, Happy New Year to everyone. Ryan, Mick, Graeme, it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, guys, all the best. So go and enjoy the rest of the leftover stew. The final bottom, scraping the bar, the bottom of the stew.
Right, enjoy it if you can. As I said, Celtic are next playing Dundee United on the 10th, and we'll be back with another Record Celtic podcast very soon. Thanks very much for watching. Cheers.